So, there's this mafia hitman named Rocco. One day, he brutally murders an Italian family of four, thinking they're the Manzoni family, the ones he's been hunting. He even goes as far as cutting off the father's finger and sending it to Don Lucchese, the mafia boss who's currently locked up in prison. But after they run some tests on the fingerprints, it turns out Rocco got it all wrong. He killed the wrong people. So, Lucchese orders him to keep searching. Meanwhile, the real Manzoni family is on the move. They're leaving the United States and heading to Normandy, France, under the FBI's witness protection program. The family includes Giovanni, who, by the way, used to be a mafia boss himself, his wife Maggie, their two kids Belle and Warren, and their dog, Malavita. Now, the reason they've been constantly relocating and changing identities is because of Don Lucchese. Years ago, he tried to have Giovanni killed. They were rival mafia bosses. But Giovanni flipped the script and snitched on Lucchese to the police, which got Lucchese thrown in jail. Ever since then, Lucchese's men have been after Giovanni, trying to get revenge. The Manzonis arrive at their new house in Normandy in the middle of the night. Giovanni gets the power back on, and they light a fire to warm up the place. Then he tells the family he's going to take a quick look around the property. But actually, what he's doing is pulling a dead body out of the car trunk and burying it in the backyard. Yeah, that's how this family rolls. The next morning, everyone's getting ready to start fresh in their new life. Maggie decides to check out the town and see if there's anything interesting to do. But when she stops at a cafe and chats with the waitress, her hopes are crushed. It's a tiny town with basically nothing going on. Then she heads over to a convenience store to buy some groceries. While she's there, she overhears the clerk and a couple of customers making rude comments about Americans in French, assuming Maggie doesn't understand them. Big mistake. She gets pissed, grabs a bottle of alcohol and a gasket from the shelves, tosses them into the storeroom, lights a match, and throws it in. Then she calmly pays for her groceries and walks out just before the place goes up in flames. Later, she grabs lunch at a fast food joint, where people stare at her because she makes a ton of noise slurping her soda. After that, she visits the local church and ends up making friends with a priest. Meanwhile, Belle and Warren are starting their first day at their new school. Warren quickly gets into trouble. He talks back to some bullies in a cocky, sarcastic way, and they end up beating him up in the bathroom. But that doesn't stop him. At lunch, he meets up with Belle and starts spilling all the info he's already gathered on the students. Who's who runs what. He's already planning to start a mini-mafia crew right there at school. After the day ends, Belle begins walking home. A car with 4 teenage boys starts following her, trying to convince her to hang out. At first, she says no, but after wandering around and getting a bit lost, she changes her mind and hops in. But instead of driving her home, the guys take her to a hangout spot by the lake, the kind of place teens go to chill. Belle asks them to drive her back, but the guy who seems to be the leader starts getting creepy. He tells her to just stay and relax, and then he tugs down one of her dress straps while making suggestive comments. Belle's not having it. She walks back to the car, grabs a tennis racket, and smashes the guy with it. Then she gives the rest of them a solid warning, telling them to show some damn respect to women. So after smacking that guy with a tennis racket, Belle takes his car and drives herself home. No hesitation. Meanwhile, Giovanni steps outside near the property gate to have a cigarette, even though he's not really supposed to. But while he's out there, he spots something. Hidden not too far off, there are FBI agents keeping an eye on the house. Classic. He pretends like he didn't see them and just heads back inside. Inside the garden, there's this old glass shed. Giovanni decides to poke around in there, tossing out a bunch of junk until he stumbles upon an old typewriter. It still works. And that's when it hits him. Maybe now's the perfect time to finally write his life story. A full memoir about how he inherited and ran the family business that his grandfather started decades ago. At some point, he takes a break from writing and ends up meeting the neighbor through their connected backyards. The guy asks him what he does for a living, and Giovanni doesn't even flinch. He says he's a writer. Just roll with it. Later that evening, the whole family sits down for dinner when they get a visit from Robert Stansfield, the FBI agent in charge of their case. He casually brings up Giovanni's new writer, identity, and gives a nod of approval, playing along. But then he brings up something else. The local shop owner recently vanished. He asks Giovanni if he knows anything about it. Giovanni acts clueless, says he's got no idea. But the truth? Giovanni actually killed the guy. The guy had sold him seafood, claiming it was fresh, but it turned out to be frozen. And that was the body he had in the trunk when they first arrived. Stansfield gives Giovanni a warning. No more trouble. And lets him know the two agents who will be watching the house from across the street are named D. Sicko and Mimo. That night, Giovanni goes to bed with Maggie, but ends up having a nightmare. A flashback to an old barbecue party. That party had been the exact moment Lucchese chose to launch an attack on him. So the memory still haunts him. The next morning, Giovanni gets totally caught up in his writing, completely zoning out. Maggie notices and demands to know what he's writing. When she finds out it's a memoir, she freaks. She knows that putting anything in writing, especially about their past, could seriously get them in trouble. Frustrated, she grabs a tray of food she made especially for D. Sicko and Mimo and heads out to bring it to them. Before she leaves, she tells Giovanni to check the tap water. It's coming out brown, and the plumber she called hasn't shown up yet. Back at school, Warren's already making moves. He's gathering intel and stealing little things, using them to win people over and build his own little circle of influence. Belle, on the other hand, ends up getting into a bathroom fight with a girl who stole her pencil case. No hesitation, she beats her up. Later, in the cafeteria, she spots this ridiculously good-looking guy. Turns out, his name is Henri. Warren fills her in. Henry's a college student working as a substitute math teacher, and pretty much every girl at school is obsessed with him. So Belle knows she's got competition. But she doesn't waste time. She goes up to Henri after class and asks for private math lessons. He agrees. Meanwhile, Warren runs into his bullies again outside the school. But this time, he's got backup, his new connections, and they help him beat the bullies down. Payback handled. Back at the house, the plumber finally shows up, more than 40 minutes late. Giovanni's already in a bad mood, and it gets worse when the plumber suggests replacing every single pipe in the house for no good reason. Giovanni completely loses it. He grabs some tools from the basement and beats the guy up. But then he cools off just enough to throw the plumber's injured body into the guy's own van and drives him to the hospital. The doctor there is totally confused. He just can't figure out how someone could end up with that many broken bones from just falling down the stairs. While all this is going on, Rocco tracks down the seafood shop owner's family, hoping they'll know where Giovanni is hiding. They don't, so he wipes them out, every last one of them. Total carnage. Back in Normandy, Giovanni keeps hammering away at his typewriter, pouring out memories of how he took care of his old Brooklyn neighborhood, like some guardian angel in a nice suit who also happened to run the rackets. That evening, Maggie tears into him about what he did to the plumber. Giovanni fires right back, reminding her she literally blew up a convenience store the other day. The argument shifts to Maggie's love of fire, which somehow gets Giovanni all worked up, and the two of them end up getting busy right there on the couch. Couple goals, mafia style. Weekend rolls around, and, against their better judgment, they host a backyard barbecue for the neighbors. Stansfield insists it gotta blend in. Maggie corners Belle beforehand, asks about this Henri kid she invited, and casually drops the use protection talk. Belle laughs it off. She's not planning a quickie in a classroom. She wants the perfect moment with the love of her life. Warren shows up lugging bottles of soda. He tells Maggie to ditch the fancy French dishes and grill good, old American food instead. Turns out he's right. The neighbors are basically here to gawk at the quirky Yankees and sample their weird cuisine. Even D. Sicko and Mimo get to leave surveillance duty and join the festivities. Only one person's missing, Giovanni. Belle tracks him down in the garden shed, still clacking away on that typewriter. He admits that writing has been like staring in a mirror for hours. It's making him realize he hasn't been the greatest dad and that he's dragged the kids into one dangerous mess after another. Belle shuts that down immediately. To her, he's the best father in the world. Mood lifted, Giovanni heads out to the party, just in time to get annoyed when the neighbors start giving him helpful tips on how to light the grill. He pictures about 10 different ways he could torture them for being condescending. But before he acts on any of those fantasies, Stansfield shows up. They slip away for a private chat. Stansfield says folks in the White House are nervous about Giovanni's book. Too many sensitive details could blow up big careers. But Giovanni promises it's just for his eyes, no public release. Stansfield also mentions that Giovanni's testimony against Lucchese was the best PR the FBI ever got. These days, more and more members of Giovanni's old crew are trading info for protection, hoping to ditch the mob life and stay alive. The barbecue winds down, and Belle's bummed. Henri never shows. Next morning, Giovanni marches over to the mayor's office to complain about the brown tap water. The mayor shrugs, no fix in sight, so Giovanni silently pictures roughing him up, then leaves before he actually does something stupid. He heads to the local water company. Turns out the water's already filthy when it reaches their storage tanks. One of the workers drops a hint. The fertilizer plant outside town might be the culprit. So Giovanni drives straight there. The factory boss is obnoxious and no help at all, so Giovanni ties the guy to the back of his car and drags him down the road until the man's ready to talk. Terrified, the boss explains exactly which turbine to shut down to clear the water supply. Giovanni dumps him on the roadside with a bike and a threat to cut off certain body parts if he blabs. Back home, Giovanni finds Stansfield in the living room, nose deep in the unfinished memoir. Stansfield admits it's a compelling read, but still chews Giovanni out for writing it. Meanwhile, Maggie keeps visiting the church. The priest finally convinces her to make a confession, promising absolute secrecy. But the stuff she unloads is so dark it haunts him for a week. In the end, he bans her from ever setting foot in the church again. Over at school, Warren totally forgets he was supposed to write something for the student newspaper. With 5 minutes left, he jots down a quote he once heard from Lucchese when he was a kid. That paper gets passed around everywhere, used on flights, to wrap sandwiches, you name it, until it lands in Lucchese's prison cell. Lucchese recognizes his own words instantly and dispatches a crew to Normandy to hunt Giovanni down. After classes, Belle drops by Henry's place. Things get heated fast, and they end up making love right there against the door once she locks it. That evening, a neighbor from the barbecue calls Giovanni to invite him to the community's monthly film and discussion night. Next month's pick is an American classic, and they'd love Giovanni, the writer, to lead the chat. Giovanni says yes. Because the FBI monitors his calls, Stansfield shows up within minutes, insisting this is a terrible idea. Giovanni argues it'll prove they're fitting in and talks Stansfield into attending with him. The very next day, the school board uncovers Warren's budding crime ring. Panicked, he bolts home to grab cash and fake IDs. He's ready to flee to Paris and build his own underworld empire, just like Dad did at 13. Warren's just about to skip town. Before he heads for the train, he hunts down Belle to say goodbye. She's a mess, totally heartsick over Henri. Turns out he only treated her as a fling, and now that he's graduated, he's headed to Paris too. Double punch in the gut. Back at the house, Giovanni pulls a slick move. He props a doll in a chair, so the FBI watchers think he's still home, then slips out unnoticed. His mission: wire a bomb to that turbine that's been dumping brown water into the lines. Job done. He links up with Stansfield, and they drive over to the community film night, only to discover the pick of the evening is Goodfellas. Stansfield groans. Giovanni just shrugs. Ducking out now would look shady as hell. Movie wraps, lights come up, and the neighbors ask Giovanni how authentic it felt. He can't resist, launches into first-hand tales from his Brooklyn mob days. The crowd thinks he's spinning fiction, but Stansfield's sweating bullets. Giovanni's clearly feeling himself. Deciding Giovanni's gone off script, Stansfield calls D. Sicko and Memo. Time to wrangle the family and initiate Plan B. Meanwhile, Warren's sitting at the rail station eyeing a one-way ticket to Paris, and Belle, still crushed, climbs onto a rooftop, phoning Henri with dramatic threats. If he doesn't take her back, she'll jump. At that exact moment, both siblings spot a convoy of grim-faced hitmen rolling into town. Realizing the danger, they abandon their own dramas and race home to warn Mom and Dad. Warren tries calling, but Maggie misses the phone. Those hitmen hit the police station first, wipe everybody out, rummage through the files, pull Giovanni's address. They take out the firefighters too and slash the truck tires, making sure no one can respond once things blow. While Maggie's at the surveillance post with D. Sicko and Memo, worried sick because the kids aren't home, Giovanni's bomb detonates by the turbine, rocking the town. Perfect alibi. He was at the film event with half the neighborhood. Stansfield races Giovanni back, drops him at the house, and orders him to stay put while he deals with the fallout. Maggie starts for home, but the second she steps outside, she spots those ominous men in black. She bolts back inside with the agents and dials the house. Giovanni still doesn't pick up. Seconds later, the hitmen reach the property, rig it, and boom, blow the place sky high, taking out nosy neighbors who poke their heads out to see the commotion. Turns out Giovanni makes it through the explosion. The second he'd heard Malavita barking like mad, he ducked out to the garden and took cover. Smart move. Inside the surveillance house, Maggie's desperate to reach him. But the moment D. Sicko and Mimo crack the door, a hitman drops them both in a heartbeat and leers at Maggie, hinting he'll have his fun before finishing her off. Right then, Giovanni comes barreling in from the yard. He jumps the guy from behind, choking him out while Maggie scrambles for a weapon. She grabs a kitchen knife and drives it home, ending the threat for good. Outside, most of the hitmen are still poking through the wreckage and squabbling over whether to shoot the dog. That's when Warren and Bell roll up, see chaos everywhere, and quietly pop open the trunks of the hitmen's cars. They score a couple of guns and open fire. It's a messy shootout, but the siblings take down nearly every attacker. Only Rocco is left standing. During the chaos, Warren catches a brutal recoil hit, blacks out on the pavement. Belle has no choice. She leaves him there and bolts, figuring Rocco's empty magazine might give her a chance. Trouble is, the old assassin's tougher than he looks. He reloads just enough and chases her down the street. Out of nowhere, Stansfield's sedan screeches around the corner and absolutely plows into Rocco, ending the chase in one crunch of metal and bone. The shooting stops. The hit squad is wiped, but the fallout is huge. The family's cover is blown wide open. So, once again, the Monzonis have to pack up, swap out their names, and disappear into another quiet town. Strangely enough, Giovanni's in decent spirits. At least he finally got to tell a roomful of people his life story, even if everyone thought it was pure fiction.